Whole CEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in weight loss, mindset, and business. Learn our top tips to set you up for success so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, and feel unstoppable. Biohacking MD is a licensed physician in the specialty of physical medicine and rehabilitation who received her medical training at Yale University, University of Miami, and UC Irvine with a thriving medical practice in Southern California. She's also competed for 20 years as a national level fitness athlete. Dr. Venus in the house. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you here. This is wonderful. Thank you. I want to get right into the content. And I know that you started with exercise to get out of your stuck phase. So do you have any suggestions that give us that as the best place to start for people to get unstuck?
Well, I think that as far as trying to get unstuck, you really have to determine where you are
Right.
and what your situation is. Because it's definitely going to be different for each individual. For me, I was trying very hard to deal with a lot of, there was just a lot of overwhelm in my life when my father got ill and he came down with a stroke, basically was struck down by a stroke. And there was a lot that I had to manage, not only with taking care of him and helping out with the caregiving tasks at home, but also continuing my own medical practice. As you mentioned, I am a rehab physician, so that is my specialty, to help rehabilitate patients and help support families through this time that can be very difficult. And here it was happening to my own family, to my own life and my father's life. So it was a very difficult situation. And being a rehab physician, one might suspect that I would be fully prepared in terms of what to do. And definitely knowledge is one thing, but experiencing it and living through it is definitely another thing. And knowing that, even knowing what is involved in taking care of a loved one who has had a stroke and is not able to get their meals like they used to be able to. It's not able to get to the bathroom like they were able to, not able to get dressed as they had been in the past. Doing all of that is just a whole nother world. Even though you know what to expect, it's still something new to your own body and to your own mind when you have to go through it on your own. And for that, as much as I had very much lived a fitness competitor life up until that point, I knew how to eat the right things, how much to work out. I had no problem with diets and exercise and doing exactly the amount that I needed to do in order to achieve my goals as a competitor. Even doing a simple thing like going outside for a 20-minute walk was just unimaginable to me when I had to also take care of my father, because that's definitely where I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to support him and show him how much I loved him. That was something that just was gone. Suddenly something that was habit, absolutely part of my life, was just erased, gone. Nothing that I could do.
I'm so sorry. That's so stressful.
So it was definitely a very overwhelming and stressful time. And I put everything on the back burner, everything that I knew, all those habits to keep myself well and to take care of myself, they went on the back burner. All I cared about was taking care of my father. So I was not working out. I was trying to comfort myself with pizza and Rocky Road ice cream and whatever was there.
Right.
It's just that was there, that was comforting to me. And whenever my father called for me, I was there at his side to try to take care of whatever he needed.
Wow.
And I just fell more and more into this it's almost like a pit. I was just like feeling sorry for myself, feeling trapped, but knowing that is still where I wanted to be, because where else was I going to be? I loved my father, and I
Right.
wanted to be with him and show him that he was still loved, he was still an important part of my life, and that I wanted to make sure that there was as minimal amount of depression, because I know that that's definitely something that can set in after a stroke. I did not want him to feel that at all. I wanted him to feel that he was still contributing to my life and an important part of my life, and that he was still doing something important in the world, being a contributing person to our family and someone that we wanted and needed still in our lives. So just being able to be there with him and to reinforce that was something that very, very important to me. But at the same time, I could feel myself, I just emotionally drained because of it. And then I wasn't taking care of myself. So
Such a big burden to take on.
that it was just something that I didn't know how to get out. I honestly didn't know how to get out. I knew all the things I was supposed to expect, but I guess I didn't have that escape plan. I knew what I advised other patients and other patients' families to do, but suddenly that simple advice was so hard for me to do. I didn't even
To
know
take care of yourself. Like
I
you could
didn't
take care of others, but you couldn't take care of yourself at the same
exactly.
time.
So I really learned what I needed to do in order to kind of break that cycle of just kind of feeling overwhelmed and then seeking comfort in things that weren't going to take care of my body, like all the wrong foods, like ignoring any kind of physical activity. All of those things weren't really going to take care of myself, so that I could actually do a better job of perhaps taking care of him. And it pretty much all came to, I remember so specifically, there was a day where I just happened to be sitting, I can't even say sitting, I was slumped back in on my couch, exhausted, just kind of staring mindlessly at the television that was on. And then I heard my father bother his buzzer, because I had given him a buzzer that he could call me if he needed anything from his room. I heard the buzzer go off, and all of a sudden, extreme frustration and almost anger. I would have to say that there was anger. When I heard that buzzer, something in me just got very angry and frustrated, and I just stood up in that anger and frustration. And I remember starting to storm towards his room, still angry, still frustrated, and then realizing I'm about to open this door and I can feel the anger and frustration in my face. And I don't want him to see that in my eyes as I approach him, because again, I love my father. I don't want him to ever think that he was a burden to me.
Right.
So right there, before I opened that door, I realized I can't be doing this to myself anymore. I can't ignore my own needs. I can't ignore the fact that I have to give some more to myself so
Right.
that I can actually show my father all of the care and all of the love that I wanted to be able to share with him. So it was at that moment that I realized I needed to do something. And for me, again, in my situation, exercise happened to be the thing that I turned to. That very next day, I woke up in the morning and I just got on my recumbent bike that happens to be sitting in my sunroom, and I got on it and I just pedaled away for about 15 minutes. And then I proceeded with the rest of my day. I went into work. It was just 15 minutes on a little recumbent bike, nothing super special, but it was something. The next day, I did the same thing. I got up and I said, let me just get 15 minutes done. That was something. It just started with that. And just the intention of wanting to do that for myself got me in the right mindset. And the activity actually started to give me just a little bit of an extra boost in the morning. I started to feel a little bit better. I started to feel a little bit more motivated. And I decided, let's see if maybe I can not necessarily eat that really processed snack in the afternoon.
Right.
Perhaps I'll just say no to that bag of chips. Let me just see if I can just say no to that bag of chips come this afternoon. And I did. I said no. And instead I walked to my backyard. I'm kind of lucky in that respect. I have some oranges and actually I have several fruit trees in my backyard, but oranges seem to be always there. So I grabbed an orange, and that's what I ate when I came home in the afternoon. Something perhaps a little bit better, just a little something that I changed. I didn't really change what I had for breakfast. I didn't change what I had for lunch. But when I came home, I said, I'm just going to see if I can say no to this one bad afternoon snack and make a wiser choice. So it's just the action of making one little step that kind of breaks that cycle, that puts you in the right mindset. That one little step gives you just a little bit more energy to probably think more clearly and perhaps open your mind to that next step that might be easier. So eventually I got to the point where I started adopting all those habits that I knew. And this is something that I think a lot of people know. I think there's so much information out there about don't eat processed foods, get rid of the refined sugars, don't eat all of that crap. Get outside, take a walk. I mean, there's so much information about there of just the basics. We all know that. It's just a matter of seeing what one step, what one thing can you maybe do, which will kind of break that cycle and then get you to start to begin to climb out of any pit that you may feel that you're in. I was in a pit. I felt like I was in this pit of self-pity
Right.
and frustration. And I just needed to climb up one little rung on that ladder, just one step, get on that bike, pedal for 15 minutes. Don't make it a big deal. Even if it was just 5 minutes, even if I could have only done 5 minutes, it would have still been something, and there would have been some sort of intention there to want to get better. And just even getting yourself into that mindset of doing that one thing each day can just get you to that one next step of what more can I do?
Well, thank you. That's such an awesome answer because it all starts with one step. So if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't have to try to say, I'm going to wake up in the morning, I'm going to run 10 miles, I'm going to throw away all the junk food, I'm going to only eat broccoli, because that's too extreme. I love the way it all starts with just one baby step of how you got up in the morning and you decided self-care was important if you were going to be there for others. You to take care of yourself with that 15 minutes on the bike and eating one orange. That's so beautiful. And I just know that you're unstoppable. I want to know if you have any other advice for our audience about how they can get out of overwhelm and perhaps stress and feel unstoppable in their lives.
Well, that was definitely my goal. I needed to get out of that unstuck place. I needed to relieve some of that stress. And it's not just a bunch of woo woo, oh, just do one thing to make yourself feel better. There's just absolute scientific evidence that it will help you. And it just goes right back to your hormones. your stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, those hormones start staying elevated. Cortisol, when it's elevated for too long a period of time, will start to wear on you. It affects your hippocampus, the part of your brain where memory is encoded and stored. So when you're too stressed, you start to have issues with your memory. You'll run into a room and say, oh, why did I come in here?
I've
Ever
been
feel
there.
like
I've
that?
definitely been there. I have definitely been there.
Yeah, so that stress and high cortisol will affect you in that way. High cortisol can do things like raise your blood pressure. It can raise your heart rate and lead to some heart problems. And why? Because that's a very natural thing for cortisol to have been able to do when we were evolving and we were stressed because a predator was coming after us. We needed an elevated heart rate and elevated blood pressure in order to really direct blood flow to our muscles so we could run away and get away from that predator or fight it off. So these are natural things that are going to happen, but then they can lead to disease states when chronically elevated cortisol levels lead to chronically elevated blood pressure. It can lead to difficulties with falling asleep. And
I've definitely been there.
absolutely, your cortisol levels are high, then you're not able to feel the regular up and down, regular cycles that you're supposed to have of cortisol going up and then slowly tapering down during the day. And you may end up with elevated cortisol levels at nighttime when they're supposed to be lowering so that you can get a good night's rest, when your body is able to actually recuperate, and get reset for the next day. So you'll wake up and you'll just be exhausted. You'll start to feel sluggish every day because you weren't getting that deep sleep because your cortisol level was too high, so you weren't getting all of the recovery and restoration that your body needed. So it affects so many things, and it affects your libido because cortisol takes away from the hormones that help it takes away from the hormone that helps create your sex hormones like progesterone and estrogen. So when you're making too much cortisol, it takes away and disrupts your balance of your sex hormones. So you may have libido problems, you may have fertility problems. There's a wide range of things that happen when your cortisol levels go too high. It affects your insulin and how your body responds to insulin. So you can be developing diabetes. You may start to become have difficulty with managing the sugar in your bloodstream, so then you start to become overweight. These are all issues that happen because you have not appropriately managed the stress in your life. You didn't take that one step to start to come out of that overstressed and stuck feeling in your life. So any one thing that you can do, like exercise, like improve your diet so that you can think more clearly and perhaps feel a little bit more motivated and focused on things. Probably the best thing that I can advise if you're feeling really stuck and stressed out, take a breath.
That's so simple, but so important. I love that.
Literally, take a breath and then take another one. This is absolutely and positively science-based. It's not just a saying. It's not just something you flip out there and you just say, oh, that's supposed to make me feel better, but give me something that really works. This really works. And that's because breathing, your inhalations and your exhalations are controlled by certain nervous systems, certain parts of your nervous system. Your inhalation is more of a sympathetic type of action, sympathetic nervous system action. The other part of your nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's more controlled with your exhalation. So here's a trick. It's called the 4-7-8 breath. Take an inhalation for a count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, inhale. Hold your breath for 7 counts. So count in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then exhale for a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How fast you count doesn't matter as long as you count the same amount of counts for everything. Because it's just the matter that the 4 breaths is the inhalation, and then, the 4 counts is the inhalation, and the 4 counts of the exhalation. Because you're taking such a long exhalation relative to your inhalation, that's really going to get your parasympathetic system activated. And that's the system that helps you rest and digest. And you'll actually feel more calm. If you do this just 4 times, you will actually start to feel that calmness. Your cortisol levels will actually start to come down. Those stress hormones will actually start to come down. This is all science-based. So if you're having some difficulty falling asleep, maybe that's where you're going to start. Maybe that's your first step. I need good sleep. Let me take 4 deep, 4, 7, 8 breaths before I go to sleep each night and see what that does.
It's amazing. I love that. It's so simple. I love that you're giving us like these simple steps, because I know for me, when I'm not stressed, I am not breathing. And when I do that breathing, I calm down. So is there anything else you want to leave our audience with about being unstoppable?
If you want to be unstoppable, just absolutely do something to break the cycle of being stuck. If you want to move forward, press forward, and you're feeling so stuck because you're stressed out, do one thing to break the chain. I talked about breathing. I talked about exercise. I talked about eating right. Eating right is a kind of a little harder thing to do. I said just make one good choice a day. One good choice. That's one thing to start with. Play music. Music can help lower your cortisol levels. Play a good song that you like and get up and dance a little bit. Put on a good comedy show. Laughter lowers your cortisol level. Come on. You can't tell me you can't turn on the television and watch something that makes you laugh. That's something so simple, so easy to do. And my little hint is to do squats through the commercials.
I love
to throw in a little physical activity in there as well. These are all just little things that you can do, but they make a difference because it's that one step that will break that cycle.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venus. You are a wealth of information on being unstoppable in your wellness. And where can people find you?
Oh, I am very happy to communicate with you, talk with you, chat with you. You can message me on Instagram. Doc Venus is my username, DOCVENUS. You can also check me out at my website, drvenus.com. So spell out doctor, DOCTOR.
Thanks, Dr. Venus. This episode is brought to you by Good Pod. Protein shakes are messy, expensive, and hard to make. Good Pod is a new amazing shake maker that's a blender and a pod in one. Take a pod, fill your glass with water or milk in 60 seconds or less. You have a healthy protein shake and it's ready to drink. Just like that.